Hello and welcome back to the channel. Thank you for coming back and to this video about the building of the tail feathers of the Piper cub. I've already started, I'm afraid. So I've got here the tail fin and the rudder. This is still glued together, but there's actually no glue. I think I'm just connecting on this point, so it'll be relatively easy to cut off and to free up the rudder, and then to basically build in the hinges and things. What I still have to do on this one is I have to put in still the tail wheel. I want to connect it directly to the rudder so that it has also some authority when taxiing around on the ground. So even if the structure is done, there's still quite a bit of work to do. I still need to sand it down and then put on the tissue, so that's also work that has to be done there. As a matter of interest, and here we have then the stabilizer, the leading edge, and yeah, basically the leading edge of this is the same as the wingtips. It's made, I don't know if you can see it, it's laminated 3 layers of balsa. I believe it's 3 or probably like 1 millimeter, so that's kind of a nice feature because it comes already with a shape. It gives it a nice shape. And what I still have to do in terms of building these I don't know if you can see it in the detail there. You see that's 3 bit there, maybe you see it there, 3 pieces of balsa laminated together, and I have 2 of these. Each of these will be one of the elevators, so that's still some work to do with the wood, building it up. And then of course then the tissue and the hinges, so that will be also coming along. Also an interesting point is that the kit did come with a bit of a metal strip which would be to put in the hinges that would help with the trimming. I have the same mechanism on the P47 and it's good. It's a bit more work and weight of course, but it does help with that. Of course I won't be using that because I want actually the surfaces to move to act as the flight controls that they are. So I'll come up with some updates whenever I have something a bit more built, and especially the tail wheel. I think that's going to be then the next challenge. So the overall structures are done. Here's the stabilizer and the elevator, and I've also sanded down the edges. I don't know if you can see it, but now they're nice and round. It's really nice with this laminated part. It's easy to work with, it's soft, so good to sand also. So from that perspective, really I'm happy with that. What I've done also, I've put in here a piece of wood, because on this thing I have to connect the control horns. And I do notice, when I was building it I didn't notice it, but it's somehow a bit crooked, but I think it's going to be okay. What I also started to do, I think just on this piece so far, and again I don't know if you can see it, I'm trying to sand down this a little bit, because then when I put in the hinges I need it to have space to move up and down, right? So how do I do it so that you see it? So the typical thing, I need to give it some space there, so that's why I'm also sanding a little bit there. Might need a little bit more. And then I'll go with a tissue covering and the control horn. I'm worried about the control horn because it's really going to be very big. If I use the same as I did on the elevators, it's very big. So I'm thinking maybe of using another solution. Let's see what I figured out. That's for the elevator and the stabilizer. And then for the fin and rudder, so it's still glued together. I decided to keep it glued so that when I do the rounding here, that it's kind of in the same line. And then I'll have to, it already moves, then I'll just have to cut it here and clean it off. And I also did the piece of wood here to put on the rudder horn. Now the concern that I have, and I don't know if you can see it, here's the tail wheel, right? And the tail wheel seems to be fixed to the rear part of the fuselage, which I think, if we look at it and we don't break it, lost the wheel, there's a gap there, so I might need to fill it in. Another idea that I had, that I did with other models, was to connect the tail wheel directly to the rudder. So basically connect the tail wheel here, but I'm not sure still how I'm going to do it, so let's see. I've got to think about it. So what I've been up to lately, I've done the tail landing gear. Let's see if you see it, if it focuses. I haven't actually even checked if the kit comes with a tail wheel, which is a bit of a shame on me, right? But I I was kind of keen to do it. So what I did, I decided not to go with a tail wheel that is connected to the rudder, but just like a free castering wheel. I have to check also if the original Piper Cub was like that or not. It cannot be blocked, so that'll mean I need a lot of rudder also on the ground when taxiing. It'll be the only way to turn actually. And what I did, I put in a little tube of plastic. Again, I don't know if you can see it. There's a plastic tube, and it comes from a Q-tip, but a lollipop. I found a lollipop could also be actually quite useful, and I bent in the wire so that it can't go in higher, it won't fall in, and it won't fall out the bottom, right? So my worry with connecting it to the rudder was that the whole weight of the tail would then fall on it, and there will be crashes, and that means that a rough landing might rip out and break the rudder and the fin. So that's why I went with this. I don't know, I'll check then later if it's more historically accurate or not, and then I can justify it to myself. The wheel is a piece of rubber, I think it's a gasket or something, or some kind of O-ring. And in the middle I put in a piece of wood, not balsa wood, it's a bit of a harder piece of wood. This is wood. I just cut a little bit and I put it in there, and this actually, it's I think from candy floss. My daughter had candy floss some time ago, and I'm always on the lookout for materials out in real life. So that's what's in the middle of the wheel. It rolls kind of okay. I don't need it to be perfect, just to keep the tail above the ground and that it doesn't hurt. So far so happy with it. I've put in here the stabilizer. I haven't glued it or anything. I'm just checking to make sure that it somehow fits, and it does. I think it's going to be okay. And then here would be then the elevator would come in here. And what I've done also, maybe more, well, as importantly, also a step, I didn't want to use the big horns that I was using on the ailerons, because these have screws and things like that. I'm sure they're great, but I would be too heavy and too cumbersome. So what I did, I took sourced material also somewhere else. I think this was my old swimming card that expired, so I can't use it anymore. So I made here the shape, and I've got here like a horn, and I'm trying to put this as far away from the aircraft as possible, from the fuselage as possible, so that there's a bit of clearance, especially if I bring in, and I've done the same thing on the rudder, so it'll be somehow like this, that there's, as you see, that there's some clearance, right? Like so let's see how that goes. Same thing for the rudder. Again, it doesn't focus there, so it's a manually made control horn. I'll probably leave it like that, a greyish color. I think it's not too conspicuous. And what else? Yes, I sanded down, I separated the rudder and the fin. You've seen that already, right? So this should then articulate like this. I do kind of sand down the edges. Again, let's see if this focuses, so that there's a bit of space for movement. I'm not sure how much I need to do there, so it'll be a bit of trial and error. And here I intend to put in a few of the hinges. It'll be the fishing, what's it called? Fishing line probably. And some will go onto the fin, and at least one I wanted to go direct into the fuselage for safety, for that it's strong enough. So some progress there. And now, before I wrap this up, then I want to do the tissue. So I'll take off the stabilizer and I'll cover it in tissue, also the moving surfaces, and I won't actually put it yet onto the fuselage until I have the fuselage a bit more completed. But with this, I'm getting close to finishing the woodwork, let's say. So it's some progress. So anyhow, let me show you how I cover it in tissue, as I do have a plan to do it a little bit different than on the picture at least. And here's the final recap of the tail feathers. So the tail fin and the stabilizer, wooden structure with the laminated edges, which is very nice, and then covered in yellow tissue, and then with some glue, some layers, I don't know, 2 or 3 layers of glue and water together. Then I've also, the next structure was the rudder and the elevators, and what I managed to do there was the control horns out of an old card, and I've done it in red. Why red? A bit for fun, so it's not all yellow, but also somehow with the dream that if it's in the air, flying far away, high and far, that I can see if it's coming or going, right? So it's a bit of a dream that if it does really get to fly that high and that well, that would be good. but anyhow, a touch of color, let's say, from that perspective. And then I have it would go somehow like this, and it should work. What I haven't done yet, and I will still leave for the end, is the hinges. I'll use then the fishing line as the hinges to put it together. But first of all, I have to figure out how I'm going to connect the connecting rods, the push rods, because once it's in there, then I can't take it off and put the rods in. So that's the next headache, let's say. But overall, the structure, I would say, quite good. Still, what's missing for that is the layer of clear lacquer, which I will be preparing, but have to wait when there are fewer people in the home, because that smells a lot. And then the last bit of the tail is the landing gear, which is here with a wire, with a plastic rod there, free castering, so it's a bit crazy. I think it's too much. Maybe I should have maybe made the hole a little bit smaller, but free castering. So I should be able, hopefully, to tax it very much like kind of targeting a spot if I have enough power and if the rudder is effective enough. So in any case, that's it for the tail feathers, the whole tail assembly. Next step will be setting up the push rods and installing part of the electronics. As I did mention before, I've already ordered smaller servos. I'm trying to listen to what you're saying on the comments, but I'm not sure how long it will take. So in the meantime, I'll probably install the larger servos. I'll try to do it in a way that I can then take them out again. So I might not glue them, I just put in some screws, that at least I can get some functioning system out of it. And then eventually would also be then starting the tissue covering and starting to get close to the completion. In any case, thank you everybody very much for watching and for all your comments and recommendations. Those are very much appreciated, and I'll see you next time.